record this if that's all right.
Sure, why not?
All right, so if you can see my super scuffed version of a corrupted gauntlet puzzle, I'm going to throw at you. You see that?
Uh-huh.
What is your first instinct on where to run in this scenario?
Uh, I would probably get off one more attack, stay where I am, and then when the left tornado along the lower side started moving more towards me, I would run towards the bottom left corner and then up, because I would also assume that that top tornado would have moved off to the right a bit.
So I'm going to give you a secret on what is way simpler than that. Tornadoes will never move onto the same file or row as you until they are right next to you. And so for
Right.
me, within a half second of seeing this puzzle, my first instinct is just to run straight up because there are no tornadoes on any of these tiles. So if I run straight up, if I do this right, so one tick, two tick, three tick, and then four, this tornado would have gone one tick, two tick, three tick, and then four. And this tornado down here, or up here, would be one tick, two tick, three tick, and four would, because I was at this tile was, hold on, I was at this tile on the fourth one, right, or just before the fourth movement, so the tornadoes are still moving towards this tile, right?
Hmm.
So I'm here after four ticks, and then this tornado, that's not that tornado. Sorry, this is scuffed paint, but hopefully it makes sense. So this would have been the first ticket would have moved here, the second ticket would have moved here, three, four, and this one is now going to be one. It would have been one, two, three, four. Notice how none of them move onto my same column. While
Right.
so now after this fourth tick, I could have waited until they got to this position, or as soon as they got to this tile, I just turn around and run back.
Yeah, run right back. Yeah, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
And so then when I turn around and run right back, what happens to all these tornadoes?
Pile up.
They pile up right behind me. And if they all pile up right behind me, so let's just give that example. Another important thing to note, do you know how long tornadoes last?
No.
They can travel a total of 20 tiles. So it's 12 seconds.
Okay.
But they're all going to pile up right behind me, right? So it would actually be one, two, three, four, and then this one would be one, two, three, four, and then this one would be one, two, or it would be one, two, three, four, and then this one. I'm like counting in my head. I'm sorry.
You're
Uh,
good.
and this one would be one, and then I'd be here two, three, four. So now I've got these tornadoes double stacked up behind me. What can you do now? You can pretty much run
Uh,
anywhere in the entire room you want.
yeah, I was gonna say I would probably run like one tile
You could,
left and then go right past them again.
yep, you can just run one to the left and then go straight back up. And then guess what happens if you run straight back up? How many total tiles have you run? It's more than 20.
I'll say that I'm sure by that point they would be gone.
So at that point, so the general gist is when it comes to these CG puzzles, is what I'll call them, the simplest solution is to just, if we go all the way back to the beginning, find the longest straightaway where there are no tornadoes. So a good
Right.
example is if, for example, you were for some reason in the bottom left corner, which you should never be. You should always try to stay in the center of the sides or the center of the room generally. But let's say
Mhm.
for some reason you're in the bottom left corner for whatever reason you were dodging something, you get caught out. In this scenario, you got to move no matter what. But a good
Right.
example would be, hey, where's the longest straight without any tornadoes? Is just one to the side and straight up. Or if you always have run on, it's two to the side and straight up and back
Mhm.
down. And then once you're back down, they're stacked behind you, then you move to the side and back up and back down. But the super simple solution, no matter where you are, is just find the longest straightaway with no tornadoes and go for it. So does that make it a
Yeah, that
little
makes
bit
sense.
easier or make some sense? So I'm gonna save this as
I'll have to
puzzle one.
try it in practice, but I mean it makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I'm gonna give you a new puzzle. And this one's gonna be probably the second most. What's the probably the most complicated pattern you think you run into with um, Hunlith? Is it this one where there's like, oh, or there's
Uh,
these four?
no, that one I don't have much of an issue with. The one that I find much more complicated to deal with is the one where, yeah, there you go. You already know exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, I fucking hate this one.
And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I think it's the middle four, right?
Yep.
So this is, oh, not that. This is scuffed. I think
Yeah,
I'm actually one
most
off.
of the time I die, it's on this configuration, and it's just because it's so much tighter.
Yeah, there's not as easy a way to get a straight ahead, right? So let's
Well,
give an
it's just that
example.
thin line across the middle. That's
Yeah. So
what I usually try and shoot for, but
let's pretend
you
you
know.
scuffed this and Hunlith is here, right? Because you didn't get him all the way in the edge. So you've kind of covered one thin line where you're gonna have to run over him if you go to there. But let's
Hmm.
just throw 4 tornadoes on here. And
I could not see the face when they were small. That's great.
actually, I gotta make sure that these are on their own layers so I can move them easily. But yes, I found it fun. You know, a little bit of well, they're mean, right? So that's one. And if I copy this and I paste it here, this is make him a little bit smaller. Wow, it's really hard to control his size when he's there, but it's fine. It could be the same size. Doesn't really matter. Hold on, I'll drag. Oh, paste, drag. Sorry, this is again scuffed school. That's two, and they're always going to spawn one on each side, right, or one on each corner.
Hmm.
And you don't really know, but it could be like, let's just say like this, right? And where are you standing? Like one of the middle areas. Let's give you the hardest
Most likely,
scenario.
I'd say.
Actually, let's give you the hardest scenario because that's probably going to be something like this. This might actually get you a little bit flustered here. Where would you run in this scenario?
So I'm fairly confident this is not what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I usually try and do in this scenario, and honestly, this is probably what gets me killed most of the time, is I will try and get them bunched up and then run into one of the square sections on the side without the lava and just run that square.
Like you would do something like this back and forth, like this.
Yeah. Yep.
That's an option. The first thing I see here is, well, there's two things here. I see this line is all the way open, but you might realize that the next tick, this tornado is going to be on that line, right? Because
Hmm.
he can't move onto the same row as me, but he can move right next to me. So he'll move here. But you know what I might think is, you know what? At the very beginning of it, there's only going to be one tornado on this file. There's a 33% chance that it actually hits me if I run through him. Maybe I'd run through him if I had a little extra health to spare. My other thought is these guys, they're going to move up a couple ticks no matter what. No matter where I move, they're going to move like 2 or 3 ticks up. If I'm on this side of the map, the first place I want to go is to get to this long line. Because no matter what, if I'm on this side of the map, these tornadoes are going to move at least 2 tiles up or even 3 tiles up before I can get down here. So if I'm on this side of the map, the first place I want to go is the other side of the map and run run the perpendicular line. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So what I'll want to do first is, knowing that this tornado is coming for me and knowing this tornado is coming for me, find the biggest spot on the map that's open and just run to a safe space. Something important to note is if a tornado is not on a square or in any of the direction of your path to that square, you will not run into that tornado. It is literally impossible. So the reason, because tornado always goes to the previous area where you were, they will never run to meet you somewhere. So if I run here, this tornado will not hit me because it will always run to the tile I was previously at. If I ran through it, there's a chance that I actually run into it, right? Because we're running the same laterally. But running diagonally, you will never hit a tornado on accident unless you're running straight at a tornado. So,
Right.
so
That
my
makes
first
sense.
thought is if I take my character and I go 1, 2, 3 ticks, this tornado down here, which I think is it this one? No. This is the one we're most worried about, right? He would have gone 1, and I would have been here. He would have gone 2, and I would have been here, and he would have gone 3. Oh, did I just duplicate it? That's crazy. 3. So he'd be here now. And then this tornado down here would probably be 1, 2, 3, because they're all trying to meet me at the last tick before I'm down on the bottom right is here. So they're all trying to run after this square. And this would be 1, 2, 3. What the heck is this? All right, well, can we just do a selection tool and delete? There you go. And where did I have him before? Was he here? I don't know. He'll be 1, 2, 3. So he'll be here. So this is going to get a little tricky for you, but now this is the second part of the puzzle. Obviously, you're going to run just straight across, right?
Mm.
What happens when you run straight across and now they're all bunched? They'll probably be all bunched right about. We're just going to start deleting these. So we're just going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one. And I'm just going to say they're probably going to be bunched right about here. All 4 of them, or maybe there's 2 of them right next to each other. So we could just duplicate, and there's 2 of them here, right? Now what? Now where do you go? You've probably run these tornadoes for a total of 10 ticks. So they've got another 10 ticks going. You can't run down the straightaway, and this guy's blocking your exit.
You just run up and then probably back down because they're not going to go into that
Yep,
that
it's
row that
exactly
you're
what
on.
I would do.
Just run right
So
up
I'd
and
run
down.
up, and they'd probably follow you after a little bit. 1, 2, 3. And then your instinct would probably be, oh God, wait a tick or 2 and wonder and panic. And this guy's would probably get to maybe here, and your next instinct would be to run back down.
And then back across.
Exactly. Perfect. And then back across because they've gotten out of the way. So it seems way more scary than it is, but the general gist is find the big long open line and run for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that big open line has tornadoes on it, just run a random direction to pull them off of it, run back to that big open line and run right across.
I think what's going to make it easier is if instead of looking for new places to run, I reutilize paths I've already taken. So
Yeah, you just have to,
I won't
like what
confuse
you just
myself as
said
much.
there, that detour up and then back down, reopen the path.
Right.
And remember, they're never going to get in the way of your path. They will only change to your file or column when they're right next to you. So you, even if you had done like a good example, if you go back to here, let's say you were here, you could have just gone up once and back down and then run right across, because all that would have done is if you go up once, these tornadoes will go up. Well, actually, they'll follow you once here and then they'll go up. And if you go back down, actually, they wouldn't follow you up. What am I talking about? You got to go way further up. Because they won't. Actually, you don't have to go that much further up. You just have to go. What I'm concerned about is they won't move to this row until they're right next to you. But if you go up 2 tiles, they will.
Mm-hmm.
So then they'll go like this, and then you can go back down, and they won't follow you back in there, and then they'll keep going this way until you pass them, and then you can run back that way. So the general gist is, yeah, you're exactly right. Is find an open line, and then once you've got that open line, just take a quick detour to pull the tornadoes off that path, and then go run back through that open line. The thing that'll probably also throw you for a little bit of a loop is if these lava tiles change during it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit intimidating, but the general gist is the part where I get most flustered is when the tornadoes first spawn, and that's from like, oh shoot, I haven't solved this. But once you have
Right.
the tornadoes controlled, it's just you pretty much have full open. Like if these all change to a whole different pattern, you just run to an open square and then you can find another line. There's always open lines whenever there's a new change, especially if you've got the tornadoes under control.
Right.
But like when you first see the puzzle, your instinct is just to run to one of these squares and get what I'll call claustrophobic. could be a little scary, but also it's a lot harder to adjust to when these lava tiles change. Because when you're in this square, you're like, oh shit, what if now it's the fours on the sides? Now I got to run all the way around the outside, and now I'm not getting any ticks in. Whereas here, if you have this open line, you can run three moves. So 1, 2, 3, attack him. 1, 2, 3, attack him, and then back down. And you can pretty much get constant attacks in. I wouldn't recommend it just yet, but you can. So that's the first one: is just find open lines and run them. The second part of training is, let's talk just a simple scenario. Let's say these two tornadoes are here, and you want to be lazy. You don't even want to run up and down on a line. One, can you run through these tornadoes?
I believe you said when they're within, was it 3 tiles? 2
Within
tiles?
2 tiles. So let's say these two tornadoes are right here. If you start your run, so you run to here, the next tile, these two tornadoes are going to be here, and you're going to get hit with whatever tornadoes are on that tile. But if you start your run when these tornadoes are here, the next tick you're going to be here, and the tornadoes are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend trying this through stacked up 2 tornadoes. But if a good example is you have only 1 tornado to worry about, so let's just get rid of this guy. Again, scuffed. But if you have 1 tornado to worry about, as long as you start your run when the tornado is either here or somewhere in here, like maybe moving between tiles, you can run right through him. You can run to here, and he'll be here. Or if he's here already when you start your run because you're a little late, you're going to run right through him, and he'll run behind. So, again, it's a little bit more intimidating because you're running through tornadoes, and it's a timing thing. But if you're like, hey, I want to be a little bit lazier, you can run through the tornadoes in this open line, and you legit can just not even do the run to the edge and then up and back and grab it. You can literally just run back and forth on the line the entire time and just ignore the tornadoes. But you have to get that tick, like you have to know where the tornadoes are, get that tick perfect movement, which is where I think the Gauntlet plugin has something called like Outline Tornadoes True Tile on it. Under the Hunlift section, it'll actually show you where the tornado's true tile actually is, and that might help you with the tick perfect movement. So that's all of Corrupt the Gauntlet class that I can show you for movement. Otherwise, it's just pray correctly, use the correct item. But I mean, I think most of it's probably movement is what flustered me, probably for the first 100 or 200 kills. And then I probably after like 700 or 800 kills, I started to get like, oh wait, I can just run to an open line and run back and forth, and that's where it started to simplify and became like, okay, I don't hate CG anymore. But that's it. That's all I got for class.
Outline Hunlift. I should probably have that on too. Color tile by prayer, huh?
I don't know what that means, but
I'm assuming. Well, it says outline Hunlift tile. And then under that it says Hunlift's tile color will correspond to its active prayer.
Interesting. Oh, whatever he has over his head.
I'm not sure if it means that or if it's what he's attacking.
I think it's probably whatever's over his head, because I think it's whatever he's attacking is a little bit too strong.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go in and look at it
Yeah,
real
give it a
quick and
shot.
see what it.
But anyways, that's all I've got. I recorded this whole thing, so I'm going to throw it on YouTube as well. I don't know how valuable that'll be for you if this is too scuffed, but I'm hoping that, like, what you can do is, maybe I'll toss some puzzles in there, and I want you to just, like, say, hey, this is exactly what I would do in this scenario, and I'd be like, perfect, or here's what I would change.
Sure.
But generally, most of the time, as long as you're doing something, especially when the tornadoes first spawn, as long as you're moving, you should be fine. Because again, running through a tornado, there's only a 33% chance you actually get hit. Like, let's walk through that scenario, because that's actually an interesting one as well. Let's say, for example, there's 3 scenarios where I'm going to run through this tornado. I'm going to try to run through it. He's here, or he's here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's here, the next tick, I try to run through him, and we're going to be on the same tile, right? Oh, I screwed up. We take damage. If he's on either of these 2 tiles, I run past him. But in this scenario, if he's all the way over here, if I choose to run all the way to this tile over here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, turns out I'm going to run right through him, no problem. It's going to take no damage. And 67% of the scenarios where I just click the other side of the line, if there's only one tile, if there's only one tornado in the way, 67% of the time, you will not get hit by the tornado. So sometimes when you're like, I don't have the brain power to solve this, or I'm freaking out, just say, you know what? If I get hit by the tornado, I got unlucky. Call it a day. And then once you're the
Sure.
other side, you can try to solve it because they would have been bunched up a little bit better at that point.
Hmm.
But that's it. That's all I got for you.
Okay.